RCMP investigation. A city councillor has his phones seized. Deep fakes and intimate images.
People who threaten to share, because that, again, is a threat that hangs over someone.
Alberta's plan to protect victims. And they own a home, but they're still struggling.
About 1 in 6 even considered selling their own homes due to their financial need.
Alberta seniors worried about paying the bills.
CTV Calgary, local breaking news with Ian White.
Good afternoon. At least one city councillor and a former councillor are connected to a federal RCMP investigation. As part of the probe, the Mounties executed a search warrant at Councillor Andre Chabot's home last week. Tyson Vidor is live from City Hall, and Tyson, Chabot says he is cooperating with the Mounties.
Ian, Andre Chabot saying today that he has no idea why mounted police showed up to his home last Thursday, seizing 2 of his cell phones after a search warrant was issued. Now, Chabot did meet with the media today just after lunch, but reiterated he is unsure what investigation his devices may be connected to. The initial complaint was received by the Calgary Police Service last October, which was then turned over to the RCMP. The RCMP would not provide any details about the complaint or what the investigation entails, adding it has no further comment to protect the integrity of the investigation. Now, Mayor Jeremy Farkas says that he has not been contacted by police either, although not confirmed. There could be other councillors involved.
Well, I was completely surprised. I had no idea why they had to do a warrant. I was more than happy to have given them my phones if they had just asked.
Now, late this afternoon, CTV News did hear from the lawyer of former councillor Sean Chu, who had one of his properties searched last week by RCMP as well. Chu's lawyer does say that his client has been cooperative with authorities. He respects the legal process playing out in front and is hoping for a swift end to this investigation. Ian?
Thank you, Tyson. The assistant coach of a Calgary girls hockey team has been charged with child luring. Police say his alleged victims are between the ages of 7 and 15. 23-year-old Malik Buccini Small was arrested on March 17th. He's facing 21 charges, including child luring, invitation to sexual touching, and extortion. Police say 3 girls from Morinville and Red Deer came forward saying they were threatened into providing sexual content. Investigators also claim to have digital proof there are more victims and are asking them to come forward.
Our biggest concerns is that he has corresponded with other vulnerable youth. But again, it's difficult for us to identify the location of those youths, given some of the complexity that we're already faced with at this initial investigation.
Investigators say Buccini Small allegedly used multiple platforms under the usernames Iggy Pup, Wakanda Forever, MJ, and W07. 007 rather. It's unclear if athletes were targeted. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. The Alberta government is looking at expanding the types of intimate content people are prevented from sharing without the other's consent. Jacqueline Wilson is covering this topic for us. So, Jackie, what are the details?
Yes, and so Technology Minister Nate Glubish says that those deep fakes, they can be just so harmful. And so that's why he's wanting the province to not only amend, but to expand our legislation around it to protect more victims. Now, if you don't know, deep fakes are essentially videos, audio, or images, and they're created by artificial intelligence. So the content is based off of a picture, video, or voice of someone, and then that's replicated to show them doing or saying something that they didn't. Now, Alberta's existing law, passed in 2017, lets victims of non-consensual sharing of intimate images sue for damages and to seek injunctions to prevent further distribution. But that law is limited to pictures or videos of people who are nude, partially nude, or engaged in sexual activity. Glubish wants to add deep fakes as well as audio recordings to that amended law. Christine Cassie, she's the CEO of Chinook Sexual Assault Centre. She's been calling on the province to make these changes for years. So she says she's very happy with the news, but thinks the update can go even further.
We need to cover who the wrongdoers are, because it's original creators, but it's also those that may knowingly and recklessly share or amplify these images out in the public, or these voices out in the public. People who threaten to share, because that, again, is a threat that hangs over someone, and those who profit from that distribution. So we've seen that quite a bit with Pornhub, but there's other pay sites or advertisers that may benefit from this.
Now, Cassie says she also wants a better process in place in order to take down and to de-index those images and videos very quickly, as well as to get rid of those digital footprints so it can't harm victims even more than it already has. Glubish is aiming to have that legislation in place by the fall. Ian?
Jackie, thanks very much. A coalition of rural, Indigenous and farming communities are opposing part of the province's energy MOU with the federal government. The group is against a proposed 600-kilometre carbon capture pipeline and carbon storage project. It's made up of those who live along the route and who are worried about the line's impact on their community's land and water. Ahead of any development, the coalition wants Ottawa to conduct a comprehensive impact assessment.
Someplace in our regulatory processes and in the bureaucracy that exists, there must be capable people to look at the big picture. And if it is going to be okay, and if it is going to be wonderful, and it's going to be great for future generations, then we're all in. But I'm not going to stand here and trust an industry that we have no reason to trust. Live next to those oil and gas companies. They are not good neighbors.
The coalition will host a series of town halls in impacted communities to organize neighbors. The carbon project is a key element of the provincial-federal MOU. The Workland Centre, formerly Arts Commons, receiving a $2 million donation today toward a new lodge, part of its transformation expansion project. A pipe ceremony led by Blackfoot elders officially recognized the naming of the BMO Lodge. It will be a public space that connects the project's 1,000-seat Austin Victor Playhouse and 200-seat performance space. The new BMO Lodge was designed with consultation from First Nations communities, and it reflects Indigenous lodge concepts, including teepees.
The BMO Lodge is our physical manifestation of a commitment to open space where people can gather on their terms to come together around arts and culture, but also around each other to define what this space can mean for Calgarians.
The Workland Centre transformation expansion is now in its second year, and in addition to the two new performance venues, also includes a redesign of Olympic Plaza. Okay, Jody, quite a bit colder today. Does that mean something else is coming?
Yes, it does. We are looking at change, and it's prompted some weather warnings, a number of winter weather warnings to the west. In Calgary, we are expecting some snow, not quite as much as our friends to the west, and our forecast high of 2 degrees. That was reached very early, sitting at -3 right now, and our normal daytime high is about 6. You can see that system moving in from BC and in toward the southeast corner of our province. It's showing up as rain, transitioning to snow. Locally, we will see our temperature dropping down and stay below freezing right through until Friday. Your 24-hour forecast brought to you by Fifth Avenue Volkswagen, family-owned, community-driven. Discover more at Fifth Avenue Volkswagen. And we will see some more flurries here in the Calgary area, but you'll also notice that wind. Tomorrow, definitely a lot cooler than we have been.
Thanks, Jody. So many of us have much of our net worth wrapped up in our home, but even that asset may not be enough. Next, the survey that finds seniors who own homes are struggling too. And a murder charge after someone was shot to death on the QE2. Also, if you have a news tip, text us at 10400. A new study from the University of Calgary is challenging the idea that owning a home guarantees financial security for seniors. The report, based on a survey of more than 700 Albertans aged 65 to 85, found many older homeowners are worried about the cost of maintaining their homes. More than 1/3 said they are struggling to keep up with repairs and upkeep, and some have even considered selling because of financial pressures. Researchers say rising living costs and fixed incomes are making it harder for seniors to manage housing expenses.
Over 1 in 3 Albertan older adults who own their own home outright indicated that they were worried about paying for financial upkeep. And about 1 in 6 even considered selling their own homes due to their financial need.
The report's authors are calling for policy changes, including indexed income supports and reforms to property secured loans, as more older Albertans face housing insecurity. Jody, I think a lot of people put the snow shovel away a while ago and said, I hope I don't have to use that for a few more months. Will we have to use it in the next couple of days?
We won't here, but we are looking at snow that's going to be impacting us here in the Calgary area. We have that cloudy condition right now and a little bit of light and mixed precipitation, as you can see with this view from our Skywatch weather camera. It's definitely overcast, but no snow on the ground to contend with, and that also applies to our major roadways across the city when we look at those mostly dry conditions, dry shoulders, and we've done a good job of getting rid of that precipitation that we had from last week, but there's more incoming as that system is traveling across the Rockies. You can see it through the BC interior, both sides of the range and into the foothills. Some precipitation around the Edmonton area, some down into the southeast corner of our province where we have warmer temperatures. That precipitation that's falling through that profile, our atmospheric profile for temperature, we're looking at it as rain that's transitioning to snow, where in behind it you have that colder air, or those layers of cooler values. And then this will be more of a colder wave as we look at that air mass moving in from the north, meeting up with some of this precipitation from the west, and that actually will be traveling across the country. So it's not something we're keeping locally. We'll be sharing it with our neighbors to the east. They might not appreciate that. And then we also have the measurable impacts from the past 24 hours of precipitation that you can see on both sides of the Rockies, around the capital region, in through the BC interior, and then just starting to show up in the southeast corner of Alberta. As far as those warnings, a number issued, including that yellow level warning for snowfall to the west, and now expanded up around the capital region. We have some winter storm warnings as well, again following around the Yellowhead into areas like Prince George, but also on the BC side of the Rockies, special weather statements and some wind warnings. Locally, the wind isn't that strong. We don't have a lot of snow on the ground, but we are looking at more snow incoming over the next 24 hours, and you'll see that throughout the Calgary area, more in Banff, and they are under that snowfall warning, and not as likely of a chance in Lethbridge. It looks like this, where we have precipitation populating through BC and from the Pacific Basin, covering southern and central British Columbia before traveling into Alberta. Our forecast all around the region, we're looking at some cooler temperatures, but especially into the central and northern portion of our province, and including Calgary. So the southern Alberta not as impacted in terms of the temperature as it will be here, so that for the next couple of days, we are not expecting daytime highs to make it above freezing, but we will make it back there on Friday, 8 degrees, staying there for Saturday with cooler overnight values for the next 2 nights.
Thanks, Jody. An 18-year-old man has been charged following a fatal shooting on the QE2 last week. 22-year-old Barinder Singh and his friends were on their way from Edmonton to Banff. They say a pickup truck passed by them, and moments later, Singh was fatally shot. The friends say they did nothing to provoke the shooting. They're also worried about their safety because the second person in the truck hasn't been arrested.
We didn't overtake them. It's not about road rage. We didn't honk at them, nothing like that. They just come randomly and shot, and they ran away.
The victim had only been in Canada for 3 years. His remains are en route to his family in India. Jimmy Gassner of Lloydminster has now been charged with second-degree murder. RCMP have not spoken about a possible motive. RCMP are warning about a phone scam after a 19-year-old from Airdrie was charged. Police say scammers are posing as providers and trying to convince people to upgrade their current device. When the new phone arrives, the scammers call to say the incorrect device was sent and must be returned. The address given is for a fake return facility. RCMP say people should never make agreements when contacted by a company, but rather call them back on a confirmed number. It was a sensational story more than 20 years ago. A 14-year-old girl abducted at knife point from her bed in the middle of the night. Elizabeth Smart was rescued 9 months later. Still to come, while she continues to speak out on the impact of sexual assault. Canada's farmers are getting richer, but not necessarily because of the crops they're growing. Joining me is Liana Wachniak, investment advisor with the Popwich-Carmally Advisory Group. And Liana, farmland values grew in 2025.
That's right. And in fact, they grew by quite a bit, according to Farm Credit Canada. On average, farmland across the country increased in value by 9.3%. And in fact, here in Alberta, we had one of the highest year-over-year increases of 11.4%. In fact, all of the prairie provinces did fairly well in this particular report. Now, farmland values also include things like production potential. So there are definitely regional pockets when it comes to the overall value. But overall, looked pretty good for farmers who own their land. And there's still lots of competition when it comes to other bigger producers looking to buy up portions of land. So it's looking pretty strong into 2026, despite some of the headwinds that farmers are currently seeing, given crop prices and also input prices, including things like fertilizer, gasoline, and diesel, which are all under upward pressure because of the war in the Middle East.
Also, many Canadians continue to give travel to the U.S. a big thumbs down.
That's right. And in fact, this is the 13th straight month of declines in Canadian travel that we have seen to the U.S. In fact, in January, this was the first month since 1972, excepting the pandemic, that we saw Canadians go abroad, overseas, more often than they went across the border in their vehicles to the U.S., which is a bit of an interesting statistic. Lots of Canadians tend to take road trips, but this year they really just weren't doing it. Now, that was also part of the overseas travel increasing. We saw that up 10%, but we saw the U.S. border crossing travel down 26%. So it really is putting a bit of a bite in the bottom line of a lot of states and areas in the U.S. that do depend on travel. It's about a $20 billion industry just from Canadians alone in the U.S., which perhaps could give us some leverage when it comes to the CUSMA renegotiations that are going to be happening this year.
Some fascinating stats there. Liana, thanks very much.
Thank you.
21 new RCMP officers are being deployed across Alberta. They're all new grads from the cadet training program at the RCMP depot in Regina. The ceremony was held there yesterday. They're all going to rural locations around the province, including Cardston, Piikani Nation, Redcliffe, Coronation, and Stettler. In the past 2 years, the RCMP has received more than 5,700 applications from Albertans. At least one current and one former city councillor are subjected to search warrants. Here's Tara Nelson with the look ahead to CTV News at 6.
Hi, Ian. RCMP say they launched an investigation in October after the case was referred to them by Calgary police. Councillor Andre Chabot says he has no idea why police showed up at his home last Thursday and seized his 2 cell phones. Coming up at 6, we'll have more reaction from City Hall tonight. Also ahead, 4 premiers, including Alberta's, have signed a letter asking for more power in appointing judges. Coming up, why Canada's Justice Minister says he has no plans to make any changes. Ian.
Thanks, Tara. In 2002, we all wondered what happened to Elizabeth Smart. The 14-year-old from Utah was abducted from her bed in the middle of the night and was found 9 months later. The couple who kidnapped her were later sent to prison. Smart speaks in Calgary May 8th in support of Little Warriors, an organization that provides therapy to children and teens who have experienced sexual abuse. Joining me are Elizabeth Smart and Wanda Polsen-Holman, the CEO of Little Warriors. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Elizabeth, I'll start with you. What you experienced was so incredibly traumatic. Why do you think it's important that you keep speaking about what happened to you?
Although my story does sound extremely dramatic, it is not that different from what so many other survivors experience every single day. The emotions are the same, a lot of the actions are the same, and it can be so devastating because unfortunately we see that much of the abuse that happens comes from the very people who should be protecting you, who should be the ones loving you, guarding you from this kind of thing happening. So I feel like it's very important for me to share my story because these crimes, because they are crimes, can feel so isolating, can make you feel so alone, can make you feel so powerless. I think it is really such a comfort to know that someone else out there understands what you're going through and that you're not alone and you don't have to be ashamed of what's happened to you.
Mm-hmm. You're a mom now. You appear to have a very happy life. You're married and living in Utah. Tell me, how have you related to your children any differently than, say, other moms in the neighborhood?
Well, one of the best pieces of parenting advice I've ever been given was when someone told me the best time to start talking to your children is when they start asking questions. And I know it's really easy to be like, oh my goodness, that is a really big, scary topic. Let's talk about it when you're older. And quite frankly, my kids started asking me questions well before I was ready for it. I mean, much earlier than I ever imagined they'd begin to ask questions. But there is an age-appropriate way to begin speaking to them.
To see my extended interview with Elizabeth Smart and Wanda Polson-Holman, visit ctvnewscalgary.ca. Colder conditions are on the way and some snow too right now in Calgary. It's -3 with light snow showers. Jody has the details still ahead. If you want a clue of what's going to happen to our weather, just look west of here.
Absolutely. When we look at those highway conditions we have in through British Columbia and even into Banff, we're seeing a lot of snow, a lot of mixed precipitation transitioning, or rain transitioning to mixed, transitioning to snow, especially at those higher elevations. And one of the things it has done, and we were talking about this yesterday, it has enhanced the avalanche risk. So west of Calgary, now we are seeing an area under a high level for that avalanche danger risk, and there are some weather warnings in throughout both sides of the Rockies. Snowfall, winter storm, so it is going to be dangerous west and then coming here after that.
Thank you, Jody. Harness racers were out on the track at Century Downs today enduring the cold wind. Drivers and horses are getting ready for the upcoming standard-bred harness racing season. It kicks off April 4th. Here, a rider sits on a two-wheeled sulky, and the horses are trained to pace rather than run. Races take place Fridays and Saturdays, and it's a family event with something for everyone throughout the season.
Whether it's petting zoos or whether it's dog races or various other opportunities, there's face painting, there's ice cream trucks. We always try to do something, but then there's also, we try to appeal to the gambling side as well, the people that want to come out and play the races and just sit there and really focus on betting.
We've posted more information about the upcoming harness racing season on our website. Thanks for joining us. Now here's the early edition of the CTV National News.